African American Historical Society Museum is a long name, and we call it awesome for short if you just think about the abbreviation. But obviously, we believe we have an amazing product here. This institution was really founded beginning with a series of conversations that originated in 1999. And there were community elders from a broad range of communities, not just the African and African American communities, that came together to create this opportunity to represent and put on display, African and African American histories. There was some pretty intense debate about whether African should be included in the name of the institution or not. And the reality is, there were enough constituents there who felt like it would be remiss to try to tell the African American story without talking about African origins. African arts are powerful because they teach us something about how some of the planet, actually the planet's first watchers, the first observers of humanity, how they thought about what was beautiful, what was aesthetically pleasing, which values should be promoted in society. And then those can be enshrined in sculpture, masquerade, and mask work. And then obviously also instruments. The sphere of music is very important in African cultures. It drives and animates everyday practice. It helps people to get work done with a lighter heart. And so musical instruments are fundamental to the way that African arts are kind of constructed.
Art has been one of those things as far as African American art, our African art has been the shaping just like everything else as far as civilization. You go back to the pyramids and the tombs and the hieroglyphics and how they shaped and they told a story. They told the stories of the times. They told the stories of the events that were going on and something that was meaningful, spiritual, and uplifting, or all in all, it's one of those things that captures history, it captures emotion, it captures time.
But African arts also highlight the divine. How did African peoples think about their spirituality? How did they think about their relationship between the entities that they believed had created them? And how did they extend those values throughout society? Like, African arts are important for that element as well. Africans were manipulating the physics of sound. We often don't talk about Africans in science enough. But Africans were manipulating the physics of sound and the instruments that they created. And some of these instruments were incredibly sophisticated at very early dates. And so when we look at African art aesthetically, these instruments are intended to be beautiful, not just to sound beautiful, but to be beautiful. And so the pursuit of beauty is found in African art in that respect. There's a lot of statuary in our museum. Statuary is important when we think about the categories of African art. And statuary often depicts certain values about what it means to be a powerful woman of means in African society. And so, these values are significant.
To kind of carry on something that I feel like I was fortunate enough to have when I was a kid, was seeing myself in characters, or seeing myself in books or on a stage or on pieces of artwork and saying, I look like that person, or that person looks like me. Really creating an avenue for people to just really see themselves in a positive light. That's a big piece of it for myself, is just really focusing on that positive representation.
It cannot be denied that there are African Americans here, as well as the Burmese and Indian and Asian population. So it's part of the culture of the city that should be supported, because it makes the whole flavor of what the city and what it is.
Art is an echo. And so with that, you are literally capturing historical values that have happened of other generations of past, their story. You're capturing their thoughts, their hearts, but it helps you to propel to catch the next story or the next chapter of a book.
For educators in particular, they can provide a unique, diverse window onto a set of cultures that normally would not get much coverage in your regular school year.
As of right now, it's the shaping and the churning of bringing others that are like-minded or Afrocentric or African Americans to the forefront. I can count on my hands that of artists that I know that are African American in the city. But it makes us feel like the more and more I see, we feel at home. That's what we're looking for, home in the city. And not to say that the culture is not there. It's a heartbeat there, but we need to have more of it. For me to actually portray my art, it's my voice. It's where I share my story, my thoughts and concerns, but it's my liberty. It's me sharing with the world peace or uplifting or empowerment from a Black man's perspective.
I feel that Fort Wayne has started to evolve in a sense, where, especially within the arts realm of things, we're starting to kind of catch on, if you will, and I feel like we're in the midst of a renaissance for ourselves as far as specifically with the Black Artist Network, if you will. I think we're on the brink of something big, even with projects such as what we're doing right now. It's evident that we're here and we've got things to say, we've got things to do, and we're doing them, and we're doing them with excellence. And it just makes me feel really proud to be a part of something like that.
When you realize how richly we've contributed to the fabric of America, to the fabric of Fort Wayne, is that you really need to know who you are. Then you can be empowered and emboldened to step out and be encouraged to live past some of the animosity that's happening in the community right now. And that comes from the shootings in the high school and things like that. So they can be encouraged when they realize there's a people that went before them that had this same type of strife. Use them as an example where you can move on and realize there's another people that went before me that did this, and I can have the strength and power to do this also.
It's difficult for small nonprofits to survive without the help of patrons, and the arts should be patronized. And so I think when people think about, well, I'm going to give my money to a flagship museum, we'll hold a little bit aside and consider donating it to a museum like ours.